Hello and welcome back to Fame Under Fire from BBC Sounds with me, Anoushka Mutanda-Dougherty. When celebrities, sports stars, politicians, influencers and royalty find themselves in the firing line, whether it's a lawsuit or a scandal, we are going to pre-bunk, debunk, fact-check, myth-bust, interrogate and of course answer your questions. You can send them to me on social media or find us on WhatsApp at 0330 678 1114. That's 0330 678 1114. Coming up today.
The life of Candace Owens, it works like this. I wake up, I stretch, I have a cup of coffee, and then I am served with a lawsuit. I think that's the morning routine, my friends. That is clearly my morning routine. It is so effortless.
Plus, the Blake Lively deposition is about to happen. She's suing her co-star Justin Baldoni and his production company Wayfarer Studios for sexual harassment. Joining me today to go through this all is our resident criminal defense attorney from South Carolina, Sean Kent. Hi, Sean.
Hey, how are you doing, Anoushka?
And PR and crisis manager Molly McPherson, joining from just north of Boston. Hi, Molly.
Oh, happy to be here, Anoushka.
But first up today, Sydney Sweeney. First came the bathwater soap scandal, where she was literally selling her bathwater as soap. Now this advert for American Eagle jeans, which has upset a fair few people on socials as they feel it has an undercurrent of eugenics.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very keen.
Now, Molly, I have no doubt that you've seen this. Sean, this is definitely your first time watching this advert. For the uninitiated, Sean gets all his clothes tailor-made and he doesn't shop off the rack, so I don't think he's paying attention to American Eagle adverts. This is what people on TikTok have had to say.
It's diabolical copy in this political climate. Let's talk about that American Eagle Sydney Sweeney ad and eugenicist dog whistles. We can't keep pretending that media and marketing exist in a vacuum. That ad doesn't exist without the culture it's selling into. This is American Eagle's most expensive ad to date, meaning that nothing in this ad was accidental. And there was a decision made about what cultural cues they wanted to sell to in this ad.
Now, this advert is clearly making a play on the word jeans. We've seen this before. It's important to note that a portion of the profits are going towards supporting survivors of domestic abuse, although some people think that that actually makes this a lot worse.
Wait, I thought that the super sexed up American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney with all the eugenics and Aryan race overtones being for domestic violence awareness was a joke. I thought that was a joke that people were making.
So we've had some different perspectives there, but for somebody who maybe has, doesn't have the broader context and doesn't really understand why people are using the word eugenics, there is a broader context you need to consider. Sydney Sweeney is a Caucasian woman who is seen as someone who typifies Western beauty standards. The use of the word genes has historically been the language of eugenics, which is a belief that humans can be improved genetically by selective breeding. This has been obviously discredited, that's pseudoscience. It's often used to celebrate a so-called ideal of someone with white, blonde, blue eyes. Sydney Sweeney. Molly, the sentiment online is that this advert is completely tone deaf without understanding that the idea of good genes and using that wordplay can upset a lot of people.
In an ad campaign like that, when you're working with a celebrity, there's so much intentionality behind it. This campaign, from concept all the way to production to distributing it out to everyone, and the younger female algorithm went through a lot of hands. And when no one flags something like that, it has an intentionality that is so obvious. We're talking about it right now. People are talking about it online. I bet everyone behind the scenes from American Eagle and that campaign views it as a success.
Would you go as far to say that this was rage bait?
I don't think that's printed anywhere in the concept briefing, at the ad agency. But if you walk into an American Eagle, you're going to walk in and you're going to see a lot of girls who look like Sydney Sweeney. I mean, that is their target market. They want conversation. They want dialogue. This is viral marketing in this day and age. If people aren't talking about an ad, then the ad isn't successful. The fact also that they had money flagged to go towards domestic violence shows that they were thinking about that. They wanted to have kind of that backup as well, that the money is going somewhere when the rage started. It's all about inciting a conversation. And in that case, it worked. The question is it the right thing to do or not?
Now, we asked American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney for a response and they didn't get back to us, nor have they made a comment anywhere else. And all the adverts are still up and the press release is still up. Sean, Could someone sue American Eagle and say that they are perpetuating a rhetoric that encourages racial tension or racial hatred?
They could try. I mean, that's the one thing about being in America is you can sue for just about anything. Is it going to go anywhere? No. The easiest way to remember what lawsuits is you have to have some type of damages. And so if somebody was to sue American Eagle and say, we think this is awful, because an ad can be awful. There have been awful ads in America since the generation of time. But those ads have to be something that creates damages for somebody else, that targets someone specifically, and then it specifically hurts somebody. So let's take that one step further. Let's say it is doing some type of rage baiting, and then let's start saying that short, white, blonde, blue-eyed women are starting to attack and physically beat African Americans or people who don't fit into. Then they could say this ad is responsible for X, Y, and Z. In the 80s, there used to be a lot of lawsuits brought against rappers because they said rappers and so forth was creating these songs that would make kids do certain things. There are people who tried to sue shock artists such as Marilyn Manson and things of these nature because they were saying people were killing themselves because of this music. It's so hard and it's so targeted. So is it possible? Yeah. I don't think it's gotten to that threshold yet where something bad has happened.
That's so interesting. Now, if you don't reside in the same corners of the internet that I do, you might not have stumbled across this one. But for quite some time now, podcaster and right-wing political commentator Candace Owens has been accusing the First Lady of France, Brigitte Macron, of being born a man called Jean-Michel Trogneux. That's actually the name of Brigitte's brother. Are you confused? I was confused. This is confusing, but stay with me. Candace claims that Brigitte lived the first 30 years of her life as a biological male before undergoing a sex change and stealing the identity of the real Brigitte Trogneux. These claims were first semi-popularized by a journalist called Natasha Ray in a now deleted 4-hour-long interview with a spiritualist called Amandine Roy. That video got 450,000 views before it was taken down, and it made some waves. Brigitte Macron sued Natasha and Amandine for defamation and won, but that verdict was then overturned by an appeals court in France. Brigitte Macron and her brother are escalating this case to a higher court, but this conspiracy really erupted when Candace started a series on her podcast called Becoming Brigitte. Alongside the claims that Brigitte is lying about her identity, Candace has implied that the Macrons are silencing journalists who are looking into the story. The Macrons are now suing Candace, and the lawsuit claims that Candace has said that the Macrons are part of a very small group of elite oligarchs who routinely practice homosexuality and paedophilia, as well as worshipping a transgender deity. Molly, a claim like this flies on social media, and the Macrons say in the lawsuit that many people have seen it and believe these claims. So let's say Sunday evening, Candace has made this claim. You are the Macrons' PR and crisis manager. Monday morning, what are you doing first?
Well, to file a lawsuit for claims like this, it's really difficult to prove in a court of law. And Sean knows this, certainly. But this is so clearly false that they absolutely have a case. So typically with clients, they always come to me and they want to go legal first. Most often I tell them not to do it because it is so difficult to achieve a legal win in this. But in this case, they're going against a personality who is struggling a bit reputationally in the US. So she's almost a good target to win a case like this. So from the Macron point of view, I actually thought it was a good move.
Do you think that maybe she should have just been like, here's a picture of me at this age, here's a picture of me at this age, here I am doing a blood test or whatever?
No, because they're not just attacking her. They don't want to prove and be on the defensive. They want to be on the offensive here. They're sending a message, and she is someone who's considered a conservative Republican. But what may not be clear from a global perspective is that she's split from the MAGA crowd. You know, she is not aligned with MAGA as much anymore. So she is someone who's clamoring for relevance. She's clamoring for clicks and views, for money, and it's pretty obvious here. So I think legally they found a weakness in her brand right now and attacked.
Sean, you've read through this 200-something page lawsuit.
It's
it
so
starts by laying
long.
out. It's so long. I mean, I thought we had long ones with the Sean Combs trial, but this is long. It starts by laying out who Brigitte is, including pictures of her when she was a young girl, including newspaper clippings that announced her birth, accompanied by a photo. In that photo, you can see her along with her brother, who is Jean-Michel Trogneux. Candace is an American. This lawsuit is filed in Delaware. You guys have a codified, entrenched constitution, unlike us, and we know you don't play about your amendments. How far is Candace protected by her First Amendment right to free speech?
By far one of the best questions you have asked. I love that Molly made the comment that, and I've done it, she's exactly right. We generally don't encourage people to jump into the lawsuits. I've had a lot of people come to me and they're like, I want to file a lawsuit. I'm like, whoa, let's slow down a minute. It is easy to sue somebody for defamation, okay? A personal person, a regular person, because we don't want people out there talking about us. A defamation lawsuit means just that. I am talking bad about you and people are hearing it and it's upsetting them. What changes when you sue a public figure or a public official? That is so much harder. In the United States, we have a case called New York Times versus Sullivan. What ended up happening? That's a case from the civil rights movements back in the 60s. What ended up happening? Somebody brought an ad and they said there was all this racist stuff happening down in Alabama. Some of the stuff in the ad just wasn't true. So the sheriff down there, Mr. Sullivan, or the publicist said, I have a problem with that. I want to sue the New York Times. Stuff in this article is simply not true. He won in Alabama. They appealed all the way up to our Supreme Court, and our Supreme Court said no. The press should have a right, because of freedom of speech, to talk about public officials. We don't want public officials, because they're public, because they're president, telling the press, you can't talk about me. So what they said is, to be able to sue a public official like Candace or like the president or anybody of that, you must prove actual malice, okay? You must prove when you are saying something about somebody, you knew its falsity at the time that you made it, and you said it with actual malice that you wanted to hurt somebody. It seems easy. That is such a high standard. So that's going to be the hard part for them, to be able to prove that Candace acted with either actual malice or her recklessness was so gross it raised to a level that a normal person should not have done that. In the lawsuit, I think it does a decent job of showing that she's acted with actual malice, but it's a higher standard than you think it is because she is a journalist. Sorry, long-winded answer.
No, but I would follow. So I tried to see where they were doing this in the lawsuit, how they could prove that. So in the lawsuit, it lays out that the Macrons sent Candace what they refer to as a December retraction letter, essentially asking her to retract her previous claims. And they lay out that in this letter, they provided photographic evidence of a young Brigitte and Brigitte at her first marriage. They also highlight how journalists have met with Brigitte's brother, Jean-Michel Trogneau, who has confirmed that he and Brigitte are not the same person. They also attach photos of Brigitte and Jean together in 2021. All of the photos they say they sent to Candace in this December retraction are freely available to view in the lawsuit. So in sending her that December retraction and her continuing to make those claims after she has acknowledged that she's read it, surely then that is the proof of actual malice.
Maybe. And that's going to be the question. And that is going to be their concept, because they're doubling down. I don't know who is representing her is not the smartest thing that I've seen, because her doubling down. And I think I watched something that you sent that she claims, like she refers to as she's gotten a lawsuit and she literally doesn't care. And she's like, this is it, and she's doubling down. That goes to show punitive damages. Punitive damages was where the problem occurs. Punitive damages in America basically mean these are damages to dissuade the conduct that you have done. These are damages that can go through the roof, that can show significant more money. If you follow in America, if the Sandy Hook's shooting, there's a shock jock, Alex Jones, and he is to the tune of owing billions of dollars, not with an M, billions, because he doubled down the same way that Candace did. The only difference between Sandy Hook's and Candace is she a public figure, what she is, and if they can prove actual malice. If they prove actual malice, you can see billions with a B because of the punitive damage aspect. Because what I was curious about is, how are the Macrons going to be able to show regular damages? How has this hurt you? But the fact she's doubling down, they can show punitive damages, and this could be troubling for her.
So we asked Candace's people for a response, and they pointed us to her podcast where we could pull some clips of how she feels about this lawsuit.
If you need any more evidence that Brigitte Macron is definitely a man, it is just what is happening right now. The idea that you would file this lawsuit is all of the proof that you need.
Yeah, and before she encouraged the Macrons to file a lawsuit on her podcast saying, bring it, I'll run down to the courthouse and file the lawsuit for you. I might even cover your legal expenses. So she's been signaling for a while that she wanted them to bring a lawsuit against her.
If you're enjoying this, you might enjoy our podcast, Miss Me, where I, Lily Allen, sit down and talk with my bestest friend, Mickey Oliver.
What is that? Such an innocent little string that it's like it poses millions of questions.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Obviously, we're not going to put that in.
I'd also like the AI to really, really take a step back out of the creative industries. I swear to God, nuance is going to be lost in storytelling. You can listen to all episodes on BBC Sounds, and you can watch Listen Bitch on the BBC Sounds YouTube channel every Tuesday. That's when that happens, every Tuesday.
Now I want to talk about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, because Blake Lively is heading into her deposition today. She will face questions from Justin Baldoni's lawyer. That's the man she's suing. A lot of you guys asked us to cover this while we were doing Diddy. But for those of you who need a refresher or don't know the story at all, Blake Lively, she's an actress. You might know her from Gossip Girl, or I know her from the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. She was in a film called It Ends With Us. She was starring opposite Justin Baldoni. He's an actor, but he was also a producer and director of the movie. So technically he was her boss. Blake is suing Justin and other companies and people involved in making of the film for sexual harassment, retaliation, breach of contract, and defamation. We asked Justin Baldoni for a response, and Baldoni's legal team told the BBC at the time the allegations were categorically false. He also sued Blake for defamation, but this was thrown out. Now, Blake says the atmosphere on the set was very unprofessional. She highlights things like unchoreographed intimacy, claiming Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on her lower lip during a kissing scene where he improvised numerous kisses. What we typically see in films is that the intimacy is choreographed almost like a dance routine. So they will agree how many times they kiss, in what way, what camera they're going to be facing. She's saying that he just randomly slotted this in. She says it wasn't just her. She also claims that Baldoni inserted a sex scene in a flashback sequence where the younger version of Blake's character is shown losing her virginity. Lively says that she was told that after he called cut, Baldoni went up to the actors and said, "I know I'm not supposed to say this, but that was hot. Did you two practice?" But part of this lawsuit, outside of the sexual harassment element, is this allegation of untraceable, basically reputational damage being done. Molly, Blake is alleging that she was a victim of astroturfing and an untraceable smear campaign. What actually is astroturfing?
Astroturfing is not typically used in the celebrity realm. It's in the issues management realm. So if you were to think of renewable energy, for instance, versus coal, they want to, blanket out, carpet out a type of issue to get out there, from a lobbying perspective. You don't find it in the celebrity realm. This case has been so incredibly damaging for Blake Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. It is a case of two people who will not stop digging. And they are looking for any type of out or blame shifting, whether it's astroturfing, putting viral messages, negative reputation out there. I don't think that angle is working as well.
But when she refers to an untraceable smear campaign, what kind of tactics are we... she references things like starting Reddit forums. What other tactics are we talking about?
Yeah, it's important to understand, too, that people assume when you're a publicist, and a lot of publicists, focus on entertainment and celebrity. Their job is to be proactive. Their job is to get press. But then as we got into the social media realm, when we got into Twitter, we saw this a lot with Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard. People found out that you can purchase influence, you can boost, you can use bots, there are different things. So people figure out fissures in technology where we can try and sway public opinion. That changes so rapidly that people are kind of onto it. So that's why you're not going to get, a massive bot campaign. Now we're finding, you can influence forums like a Reddit forum. And people will, all you need is a few ringers in there to start a conversation in a certain way. And it will spiral down because people online love getting into sides. It's all about polarizing. So yes, you can find technically savvy people who might try to sway a Reddit thread. But in this case, it's incredibly difficult to prove. But what Blake Lively's side is missing out on is that Blake Lively did not have a lot of reputational goodwill to begin with. She was starting in somewhat of a negative area. And so for them to claim that all this negativity about her is just due to this astroturfing is not even realistic. And not only that, it's really difficult to prove in court.
Sean, do you agree in terms of reputational damage?
Absolutely. Like, beyond absolutely. And the only thing that's going to make this worse is sitting for a deposition, that it's going to be recorded, that it's going to be released at some point in time. You know, a lot of times we file lawsuits and our goal is to try to settle them before our clients sit for a deposition. Depositions are never good for somebody who's trying to sue, especially in these type of situations, because I don't care how great her preparation is, she's going to come across poorly in a deposition. Just is, because there's so much stuff you can ask. Remember, when you're talking about a deposition, you can ask somebody anything, especially if they're the one filing the lawsuit. So all the reputations, all the rumors, all your innuendos, all the other mean girl stuff that she has done in her life is all going to come in. And to go to what Molly is saying, what they're going to try to do is two things. If I'm Justin's side, I'm like, let's limit our damages. And let's talk about how crappy her reputation was before all of this started. Let's talk about all the people in Hollywood hated her, all the people who didn't want to work with her, all the rumors bad about her. Those are the the deposition, believe it or not. You remember when we, not to harken back to Diddy, but when I told you how bad it was going to be for some of these witnesses to get on the stand? Well, the best way to think about it is that was awful, and there was a referee. The judge was the referee saying, no, you've hit her too much, that's enough. There's no referee in a deposition. So it's going to be worse than when it was on the stand. And then later, at some point, those depositions will be released for the public.
Okay, this is one claim in the lawsuit about reputational damage and her being targeted, but the actual other claim about sexual harassment, which makes up the body of the lawsuit, is a very serious allegation.
Absolutely.
And she does seem to have evidence that speaks to it being an unsafe environment, including other people on the set who said that they'd experienced their own things. So are we getting a little bit distracted by what happened after the fact? I mean, how strong is the case in the sexual harassment side of things?
Yes, we're distracted, and that's what lawyers do. That's our job. We're trying. It's like, look over here, look over here, look over here. Bad person, bad person, bad person. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Because the stronger the sexual harassment allegations are, the harder we're going to go after you on the reputational damages, would be from my point of view. Because if you are a bad plaintiff, meaning if you get on the stand and the jury does not like you, it doesn't matter how strong your case is. I mean, I hate to say it doesn't matter, but this deposition is going to be a big deal.
Could she just sit there and if she's asked a question she doesn't like, could she just plead the fifth? Like the whole time? No?
No lawyer would advise her to do it, because how much worse does that make you look? If you're in a deposition and you are the one bringing the lawsuit. Pleading the fifth means that you are looking at some type of criminal liability. There's something that could hurt you criminally. And if you take the fifth during the deposition, you're all but telling the world, if I answer this question, I am subjecting myself to my own liability.
Well, we're going to follow on with this case, of course, and we'll take a look at that deposition when it's released. Molly, Sean, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks, Molly.
Thanks so much, Anoushka.
And thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Anoushka. Thank you, Molly. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. That was a good conversation.
That was our resident criminal defense attorney, Sean Kent, joining from South Carolina, and PR and crisis manager Molly McPherson, joining from just north of Boston. And that's it for this episode of Fame Under Fire from BBC Sounds with me, Anoushka Mutanda-Dougherty. Don't forget to subscribe to the BBC Sounds YouTube channel so you never miss a thing, and keep sending us your questions. You can find us at +44 330 678 1114. That's +44 330 678 1114.